Hello friends, before we get onto the list of my favorite leverless controllers of 2024, I just want to remind you that this list is only going to include controllers that I have personally tried. So if you don't see your favorite controller here, I encourage you to get involved in the comments and tell me why you think your controller should be number 1. Let's get straight into the list. My top leverless controllers of 2024, number 10, the G16. This uses full-sized MX switches, which means there are plenty of customization options out there, but with this controller I felt like the button caps were too small for my taste and the spacing is tighter than I like. With this form factor I would probably enjoy the G13 more, which has enough buttons for fighting games and WASD for everything else. The caps are also prone to popping off, which is not good in the heat of battle. When it's all working well, the buttons do feel great to hit, you can add your own art to this, and it's a GP2040 controller, so it's stuffed full of great features. At number 9 is the Raiden Box version 2.3. This controller comes packaged with a bunch of stuff, so you won't have to go looking for replacement keycaps or carry case. If you're good at art, the included blank art inserts are really cool, and mine even came with an authenticator for the PS5. The aesthetic they're going for is quite nice if you're into minimalism, but the finish on the one they sent me was a bit questionable. And in the 2.3 model, it's not possible to hot swap the switches since they are soldered into the PCB. The Vertibox V2 is my number 8. It's built for ergonomics and a great conversation starter as well. I do like how it feels to play on this, but in my opinion the concept and quality is not fully cooked yet. It can do with a bit more time in the oven. Transitioning to this layout is a challenge, but will probably be easier for people who have never used any kind of leverless, as you can take the small steps to rewire your brain from the ground up. I would like to see later models of this controller to have a built-in EXT port for dongles and a non-3D printed build, although I do understand that fully committing to manufacturing a product like that can be dangerous if it doesn't have a good uptake. It's a great step towards good ergonomics. In number 7 is the Tiki Taka S15. This was my first split layout leverless and I was instantly sold on this layout after trying it. The S15 feels very springy, light and fun, even though I'm not usually a fan of red switches. This combination with the nylon buttons just works well. It doesn't have an onboard EXT port for authentication devices and it has no screen, so it doesn't quite make full use of the GP2040 software. Number 6 is the Doyle Hitpad Standard. I love the way this controller is built and how it looks. There are a lot of fun details on it, to the point where I don't mind that it's not art moddable. It's a short controller, but it's wide enough to feel comfortable on the lap. I'm not a big fan of smaller controllers, but I find this form factor acceptable. It has an onboard EXT port and makes use of the GP2040's great features. The controller sounds too poppy and hollow for my liking, otherwise I would play with this one more often. If you like that kind of sound signature, just ignore what I said. This version of the Hitpad Standard only supports Gatoron switches, but if it accepted Chaos switches too, I would have this higher on my list. Before we move on to my top 5, I just want to thank everyone who has subscribed to this channel so far. You're making a huge difference and I'm just a one-man band doing everything here, so your support and kindness has been very encouraging. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're still on the fence, play a game with me. Pick a number between 1 to 16 and if the ruby bead lands on your number, congrats, you get to click the subscribe button. If your number gets a silver, just hit the like button for me and hopefully I'll catch your sub another time. Also, I want to slot in a special mention for the T16 and S16. Hot42 sent me these later in the year and I didn't get to use them much, so that's why they're not on my list. But what surprised me about these controllers is how thick and robust they feel, and you guys know I like them thick. I stopped trying to use the T16 when one of my keycaps got sticky because it wasn't playing well with the wind engine switch due to the older style of button cap used on this controller. I might have replacement switches now that do work, so let me know if you want to see a full review of the T16 sometime next year. Now back to the list. The U16 is my number 5. Art modding is important to me, so to be able to release the top plate and change the art whenever I want without fussing about is super helpful. It even comes packaged with the correct tool, so stripping these screws will be difficult, and that's a big plus. It does sound and feel hollow, which is my main criticism of this controller. If Hot42 made a good quality aluminium build of this body, it would just be mwah, chef's kiss. Which brings me to number 4. This is the R16. I know a lot of you out there enjoy this one too, and for good reason. This was their first model with rims, and I've always been a fan of a good rim. It has a comfortable button spacing for smaller hands, and it feels weightier and more substantial than the U model. The R16 feels and sounds absolutely divine with the wind engine switches as well. In fact, any controller I list that is compatible with wind engines are instantly improved in my opinion. It's a Hot42, so you've guessed it, it runs on the GP2040 software. It's not quite perfect for everyone though. It's possible, but not very comfortable to do slide techniques on this, and I wish the screws were easier to remove. The Zen is high on my list because it does so much, and some of the things I'm not keen on with this leveless can be dealt with. I can change the wobbly function caps and turn off the bright button LEDs, but I can't change the weight. It's a bit thinner than I'd like, but as I mentioned before, I like some heft because I'm a lap player. But the pluses do outweigh the cons. It's got everything you would want right now in 2024 from a leveless and more. And that split layout and spacing is incredibly well designed. So now we're down to the last two. And the nominees for my top levelers of 2024 are the Varmilo FK2 and the Hot 42 M+. And the winner is... well, which do you think would take the top spot? Let's see if you can guess which controller is my favourite of the year. Just comment V for the Varmilo FK2 or M for the Hot 42 M+, and I'll reveal the winner next week. Nah, I won't do that to you. I'll give you 10 seconds to lock in your guess, and then we'll go straight to the answer. Go do that immediately because your 10 seconds start now. Alright, we're done? Good, it's time to reveal my number one leveless controller of 2024. Hot 42 M+. But first let me tell you a bit about my runner-up. The Varmilo FK2 is special. It's as heavy as I like, so I get that big boy arcade stick feeling. It's very lovely to look at and comes in a spectacular bundle that includes a top tier carry case. Sliding is the best I've experienced on any controller. Spinning power drivers are super easy with this. You Tekken people will probably be flying through those weird slidey techniques you do, and you'll be king of mashing competitions on SNES Dragon Ball Z. No problem. There are a few reasons why it's not my number one though. It uses a brand new switch technology which works great. Super cool technology. But it's so new that there aren't any options for customization available right now. And I do like my switches to sound creamier than the stock Cherry MX Silver ones. Hopefully we'll see some in 2025. And even though it's compatible with the PS5 via a Brook Wingman, they've kind of overlooked that side of the market. This was primarily designed as a PC controller, which is fine, but as a PS5 player I do feel a bit left out by some of the choices, namely the lack of an EXT port and pin mapping for function keys on console mode. However, if you're a PC player, this could easily be your number one. And finally, let's talk about the M+. It's been my daily driver since I first started using it. The quality of the build and the way it pairs up with the wind engine switches makes it difficult for me to not go for this on most occasions. I keep my low footprint Booter 5 dongle on this and just grab it when I want to have a few games. I do wish it had some sort of labeling on the function buttons because I'm quite forgetful when it comes to this stuff. That's why I've got a print stuck on this. And it could do with a high quality rubber base or something other than cold hard steel on fire action. But other than that, it's very nice to use. Tournament goers might have issues because the L3 and R3 buttons are repeated, so you'll have to remove the knobs at the top and put tape over them to let the officials know you're sticking to CPT rules. It has a similar spacing to the Hot 42 series, but feels to me like a shorter throw. So when pressing the buttons, they hit the board underneath sooner than on the T, the R and the U series. In other words, it's a shorter travel distance. And I like that. So it's not perfect, but it does plenty of things right, and at the end of the day, the controller feels great to play with. And there you have it, that is my top 10 best of 2024. Let me know which controllers you've been rocking this year in the comments below, and feel free to shout out your own favourites. If you want to know more about any of the controllers on this list, check out my playlist where you can binge my reviews for all of them. Finally, I want to say thanks to you for tuning in this year. It's been an awesome journey doing all of these reviews for you, and I hope 2025 will be even bigger and better. Happy holidays, see you in the new year.